Shalom, first and foremost, like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teaching us truth and sincerity. And shout out to Yakims out there in the four corners of the earth who claim its truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Brakatum. So, just take a look at things going on. Babylon the Great is pretty much, it's a no-brainer that it's lost the war, and everything they try to do to save face keeps on falling apart. Like your king, king of Babylon, keeps on saying that the U.S. has the control of the strait, and that's a far-fetched lie. And everybody knows that Iran won, and that Iran has control, full control of the strait. And there's no oil coming out of Saudi Arabia as this war continues. And the Yemeni Houthis are beating the shit out of Saudi Arabia as well. Release the flock, drawing them out.
The Houthis have resumed missile and drone strikes against Saudi-backed Yemeni government forces, killing dozens in a series of strikes across the country. The first strike took place on August 6th, a little over 2 weeks after the Houthis announced a maritime blockade on Saudi Arabia. The strike targeted positions of government forces between the provinces of Ma'arib and Hadramaut in central and eastern Yemen. The Houthis said that the strike was carried out after detecting a military buildup there. The strike killed at least 60 fighters and wounded dozens of others. The very next day, the Houthis launched another strike hitting a military camp in Ma'arib. At least 2 were killed and more than a dozen others were wounded. Following the strike, the group warned that it would not tolerate any military buildup. The Houthis escalated further on August 9th, targeting Aramco's Jazan refinery in southwestern Saudi Arabia. The strike sparked a fire that forced Aramco to keep the refinery, already damaged by a previous attack, closed. The group said that the strike was carried out in response to Saudi drone attacks on the provinces of Sada'a and Hajjah in northern Yemen. The kingdom refrained from responding. Later on the very same day, the Houthis carried out a large strike against the port of Mocha in the province of Taiz in western Yemen. The strike killed 7, including 2 senior officers of Yemeni government forces, and left more than 35 others wounded. Around the same time, the governor of Hodeidah province in western Yemen survived an assassination attempt when a Houthi strike targeted his residence in the government-held El Qahqah district. On August 10th, a single Houthi strike killed 2 Yemeni government fighters and wounded 7 others in the province of Shabwa in south-central Yemen. Yemeni government forces finally responded. A series of drone strikes targeted Houthi positions in the province of El Jawf in eastern Yemen, as well as in Sada and Mari. Strikes didn't deter the Houthis, however. The group launched fresh strikes against the port of Mocha and other positions in Mari on August 11th. In addition, the Houthis struck a small cargo ship near Bab el-Mandeb Strait, killing 6
Notice
people.
Notice Al Qaeda and ISIS in those shaded areas.
Yet another Houthi strike targeted the port of Mocha and a military camp in Mari on August 12th. The port took heavy damage. The Houthis' recent strikes were more of a preemptive operation. Several recent reports revealed that Saudi Arabia is preparing an offensive against the group, including a potential ground operation led by the Yemeni government. At the same time, Oman is said to be making diplomatic efforts to broker a ceasefire.
So that's what's going there, and then you got this going on, right?
This is a message very clearly to Trump, and this is a dilemma. Not only are they not offering him the silver bullet, the way out, the way to declare victory and retire it with good grace. No, on the contrary, now what they are doing is actually taunting him and pushing him to say, you have to concede, you have to capitulate on all of these matters in order to get an arrangement that will lead to some sort of opening of the Hormuz. So it's a big shift that is taking place, and of course it leaves Trump in a huge dilemma.
Iran has now completely changed the game. They're done with Donald Trump and his garbage, and they've laid down the law. And by the way, it's over for the United States in the Middle East. It's over. And the Strait of Hormuz is over for the United States. It's all over. This is the biggest blunder that the U.S. has made, maybe ever. In fact, Iran just blew up 2 tankers. Just to let you know, they're not messing around. 2 tankers trying to get through the Strait of Hormuz without their permission. They blew them up. Wow. Hormuz tension surged after reports of another tanker strike. Iran has reportedly hit another tanker in the Persian Gulf off the coast of Oman, setting it on fire. Gulf News reported earlier today, noting the information had yet to be verified. It's verified. The information first emerged on social media with video footage showing the vessel on fire. These reports follow earlier ones by Reuters and the Associated Press on another tanker that was hit by Iran on August 8th. So this is their second tanker. The vessel was Emirati and prompted condemnation from the United Arab Emirates and other Gulf governments. Yeah, go pound sand. The attack was confirmed by ADNOC and by the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations. Vessel traffic in the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait crumbled last week amid a Houthi claim they had hit a Saudi oil tanker in the Red Sea. So there's the 2 parts. There's the Bab el-Mandeb Strait that Saudis could get some of their oil, and the Houthis have shut it down. Those are the people in Yemen. They have shut it down. And by the way, Donald Trump decided to attack Yemen when he first became president, and then he retreated. He's like, okay, we can't. This is stupid. We can't beat these guys. And so now they got the Strait of Hormuz closed down, and they got the Bab el-Mandeb Strait closed down. Despite hopes that Oman and Iran could reach a deal on jointly managing Hormuz. Iran ties the Strait of Hormuz reopening to U.S. reparations, so now they've made demands. Now Iran is not messing around. They want their $300 billion to fix all the stuff that we blew up. They want all their money unfrozen that has been frozen for decades. And they want the United States to completely pull out. And that's their demand. You know why? Because they have all the cards. Donald Trump, the United States is out of missiles. We're out of them. And it's going to take a long time to replenish it. Iran demands U.S. compensation, ends to attacks, sanctions relief, and blockade removal to reopen Hormuz. Iran wants the strait reopened only after the U.S. meets multiple conditions, delaying prospects. And here's a spokesperson. Here's Major General Mohan Rizal. He's going to tell you what they want.
Hormuz will not be opened. No American warship has a right to enter the Persian Gulf. The American presence in the Persian Gulf is the main cause of the insecurity of the last 50 years. Without the U.S. leaving the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz being controlled by the countries of the region themselves, especially us and the country of Oman, who are on both sides of the strait, it is impossible for security to be established. The end of the war is also in our hands.
The end of the war is in our hands. And it is. You know why they're saying that? Because it is. There's nothing the United States and Donald Trump can do. Nothing. And if they try a land invasion, guess what Iran has been saying for months? Come, try it. We're waiting. We're waiting. They're not going to try it. And if they do, it will be the biggest disaster ever.
We will look at the end of the war when, first of all, we have received all our damages from America. Secondly, we must reach a 100% guarantee about the future, which is not possible without the U.S. leaving the Persian Gulf. Therefore, the second condition is the withdrawal of the U.S. from the Persian Gulf.
So there you go. We want our money, and the United States has to leave the Persian Gulf. We want our money, and they have to leave. Now, I wonder if that means all the military bases, because there's military bases all around. We got military bases in Saudi Arabia, we got military bases in Qatar, we got military bases in all those Gulf states. I think it probably means that. So here's Alistair Crook. He's going to tell you what all this means.
That's like, this is a precursor to what Prime Minister Arachi said over the weekend. Two of the demands are American departure and American reparations.
Yes,
the actual chance of that, is there?
300 billion is what they're asking for in terms of reparations. Yes, none of these already, I think it's fair to say these are quite maximalist demands. And when you couple that with, if you like, the proactive military structure, I mean, a stance such as attacking one of the tankers last night and again this morning, just before the market opening, when you see this, you can see, I mean, this is a new strategy that is being formulated, and it is one of no surrender to Trump, that we are going to accept the challenge of the United States and we are going to prevail. And that's what, this is a message very clearly to Trump, and this is a dilemma. Not only are they not offering him the silver bullet, the way out, the way to declare victory and retire it with good grace. No, on the contrary, now what they are doing is actually taunting him and pushing him to say, you have to concede, you have to capitulate on all of these matters in order to get an arrangement that will lead to some sort of opening or almost. So it's a big shift that is taking place, and of course it leaves Trump in a huge dilemma. Is he capable of accepting to be the loser in this war? How will that impact on the midterms? I mean, all of this is calculating, but the most important thing is how is all of this going to affect the markets? Because I think Netanyahu gave it away when he said, look, the thing that really matters after he came back from Washington. I mean, yes, he said all the other things about greatest meeting ever, but he's an economic campaign. But what he said was, I believe the president of the United States is anxious not to see a market crash, and so that was, I think, this is the key thing behind it. This is the interest. So Trump has got to sort of balance all these things, but the markets are very vulnerable at the moment, particularly the bond market, and will a more aggressive posture on the part of Iran, a willingness to take on Trump if he escalates or tries to escalate, how will that impact on markets? And this is the calculus. But it could change any day, because I just wish to add that there's, the whole region is now burning quietly, whether it is between Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Yemen have been firing up to 10 ballistic missiles at the proxy forces, Saudi proxy forces in the south, sent their mercenaries really fleeing from their positions.
So Saudi Arabia was threatening Yemen. They're like, we're going to invade you. So Yemen just started bombing them. They blew up their biggest oil depot. And like he said they're sending missiles all the time. And then Saudi Arabia was like, after they blew up their biggest oil depot, Yemen was like, all right, we're not going to invade you. Let's work this out. Yemen, badass. It's one of the poorest countries. And yet the United States, Saudi Arabia, nobody could overtake them.
There has been another attack on the Jizan refinery, Saudi's Aramco's refinery on the coast of the Red Sea. Another major attack. I don't know exactly how damaging, but it's still on fire. And it was attacked a week ago. So Saudi's not exporting any, for the first time, its exports of oil are zero. It's more or less the same for the UAE. The exports are zero. They tried to export oil, and their tankers have been struck by missiles. And so Saudi Arabia and Yemen are at war, and it's heating up. And the Yemenis are attacking, and the Saudis and America are attacking into Iraq at the resistance group, the Hashad. And Iran is attacking into Erbil, into Iraq. At the same time, the Kurdish forces, which seem to be being prepared in some way by the United States to try to infiltrate into Iran and establish a sort of base inside Iranian national territory. So the Iranians have been assassinating them and attacking them fiercely. And after the attack on the Iraqi resistance, they have attacked into Saudi Arabia too. And they have forces on the border of Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is concerned about that. And the Iraqi resistance have also moved their forces close to Syria because of the suggestion that the Al-Jalani might try and get involved in the war in Lebanon to help the forces to disarm Hezbollah. And they said, you go near Lebanon, you go into Lebanon, and the Iraq forces will come into Syria and attack you from that side. So the whole region is really on tenterhooks. You recall just a few, more than a week ago now, but attacks on a shipping vessel, a tanker, or in a port in Egypt. So it's widening, and there was an attack by Ukraine on an Iranian ship not so long ago in the Caspian. And so all of this is widening. And the point here is that, the idea that there's a sort of silver bullet deal to be done with Iran, that, okay, we'll just do these provisions in the MOU and it's all over. It's not, because everything is interconnected. I mentioned how in this statement by the National Security Council, they refer to Palestine, not just allies, our allies, regional allies. They specifically talk about Palestine.
So in the MOU, remember that the Memorandum of Understanding, Iran did not mention Palestine by name. Now they are. Now they're demanding withdrawal from Gaza. You got the Palestinians and people in Lebanon. Iran is now dictating. The whole thing is different now. Iran knows they have all the cards. They know the United States is out of missiles. They know that we're running out of reserve oil. They know they have the upper hand. And Donald Trump blew it. He had a chance to end this on better terms, and now it's over.
And Palestine is heating up greatly. Now, we need to be aware of this and look at it because it seems clear that the more messianic right, the Smotrich and the Ben Gvir, are planning to stage a war in the West Bank and maybe even a provocation on the Temple Mount because they believe this will win the elections for them, that this will change the whole calculus, but it also will lead to them expelling Palestinians from the West Bank. That's what they want to do. So the whole thing can easily catch fire and take a completely different dynamic in this period leading up to the Israeli elections in October.
So there you have it. And Trump's response is he demands compensation from Iran. So it's a joke. And everything has changed. As like he said, the region's on fire. They just knocked out 2 tankers trying to go through. Yemen knocked out a Saudi tanker. They took out a Saudi oil depot, one of the biggest. It's not looking good for the United States and the Gulf states. Not looking good. But Israel's going to keep this going. Just like you said, they're going to probably go and do an invasion of the West Bank now. So just as Charlie Kirk predicted, they're going to do an ethnic cleansing of Gaza, and that's what they're doing. They want those people out. They want that land. They want the southern half of Lebanon. They want all of Gaza and the West Bank. And Iran's not going to let that happen. And they own the Strait of Hormuz. And you had Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury, saying, it doesn't matter. In a year or two, we don't even need to have oil go through there because we're going to have it done through pipelines. And what he doesn't realize is that, what about all the fertilizer that goes through there? What about all the helium that goes through there? What about all the urea that goes through there, you idiot? You can't build pipelines for that. So, not good, not looking good for Donald Trump. He really got himself into it.
Yep, he's opened Pandora's box and cannot close it. So the U.S. has lost the war. They ain't got nothing left, as these next 2 videos go into. So this is Apostle Tahar on the subject.
The rest of it, so it's going to be super quick. I'm not going to play this video. I'm just going to do a video on this video. This is put by Geopolitics Neighborhood. Scott Ritter to all American waits for the blast. And I'm going to entitle this video, Scott Ritter tells it like it is. This place is done. So I'm not going to play any of this. It's only 13 minutes long. So it's a fast video. And he pretty much, in the 13-minute time that he has, he pretty much covers it all, that all hell's getting ready to break. This place is collapsing. You can say from within and without. But that's all I'm going to speak on. Anyway, he mentions a book. The book is, I believe it's The Last Babylon. It was written in the 50s. I think his father had the book. And he was living in Germany at the time. And there was a point where the father had the family, as he has been a kid, going to a bomb shelter. I remember that this is when my mother, grandmother, they had the bomb shelters during World War II. You had the bomb shelters in New York City, different parts of the city, where you saw that yellow and black sign, and you would go into a basement, and they would say, you have signs. All those signs were taken down. But I remember those signs as a child. But anyway, listen to the video. Watch the video. Fast-paced video. He says a lot in very little time. And that's the key, saying a lot in very little time. Anyway, like I'm doing. Shalom, on to the next.
And then, of course, I do have Scott Ritter's
Danny, we
video.
have somewhat breaking news of a recent Truth Social from Trump just a half hour ago. The USA has total control over the Strait of Hormuz. I think we will keep it. Our naval blockade is being called by everyone a wall of steel. There's nothing Iran can do about it.
It's
They have no
hilarious,
Navy, no Air
isn't
Force. Their soldiers are unpaid. The IRGC is decimated and fleeing, and their leadership is uncertain at best. They have no money. Their country is shot. All they have is fake news and 300% inflation and getting worse. Iran is all talk, no action. The bully of the Middle East, no longer. Praise be to Allah.
What is this praise be to Allah stuff, man? That by itself is just weird. I don't know what he's talking about right there, but that's obviously, well, let me show you something I was about to show you anyway. Combined with that, here's what President Trump said last night, and you tell me, is this guy dealing with the full deck cards?
Iran is going fine, going just absolutely fine. We totally control the Strait of Hormuz. We have control over it. Nobody else, only us. Our Navy is unbelievable, and things are going great for our country. Go ahead.
But what is he even talking about there? That we're in control of everything. We're obviously not, or the war would basically be over because the flow would be coming out. Now, to be fair, there is some flow coming out for various reasons why. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it's still well below the pre-war levels and nothing near what we need for the global economy to get back into a healthy condition. What do you say?
Well, the key here is, in West Point, one of the biggest crimes you can do is quibbling. Not lying, and lying is a straight up lie, but quibbling. Quibbling isn't really telling a lie, but it's not telling the truth. It's saying something that sounds like the truth, but you know it's not the full truth. You're quibbling, and the president is quibbling here because he's saying that we control the Strait of Hormuz, but we don't. We have no say over what goes in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians have 100% say over that. As you said, there's leakers here, there's leakers there, but the Iranians have control with their navy, by the way, the one he says they don't have, the one that the United States can't defeat. He's talking about a wall of steel, so he's talking about the blockade. And this is where, Pete Hegseth has done the nation a disservice, because Pete Hegseth has sold his president on the notion that we have a wall of steel. The president didn't invent that term. That's a term that came out of the Pentagon. A wall of steel through which nothing happens, which means, according to Hegseth, we indirectly control the Strait of Hormuz, because anything that wants to go through the Strait of Hormuz has to go through our wall of steel, and it can't get through our wall of steel. So we're in control of the Strait. Anything that comes out of the Strait can go past our wall of steel, and it can't get past, so we control the Strait of Hormuz. People need to understand what a wall of steel is. I mean, I don't know how many ships we have, 16. That's not a wall of steel, ladies and gentlemen. Plot a ship out, plot the area of the Gulf area of Arabia, the Arabian Sea where they're at, and you'll see that we don't have enough ships to have a wall of steel. We have little outposts of rusted metal, but not a wall of steel. Not only that, the closer we get to the Iranian shore, there's no American ships there because their missiles would sink our ships. So there's a huge gap. It's a wall of steel. That's like saying that I'm building a wall to protect America from illegal immigration that stretches from the Pacific Ocean inland, but when you get a couple miles east of San Diego, the wall stops and there's a giant gap. And you realize, oh, that wall's useless because everything's going around the gap. Anything that skirts the coast of the Iranian coast is getting out, and a vast majority of the Iranian shipping is doing just that. So it's coming through that gap, going in, and coming out, and going out. Trump is just making things up. We don't control anything. We don't control anything at all. He's lying to the American people, straight up lying.
And the compounding this lie is just some weird stuff. So I'm going to go because this is directly related here. We had Victoria Coates was going on Fox News trying to give some justification for why we need to have this massive increase in the defense budget in just 1 year. And she's going to lay out some numbers here which are pretty eye-opening because we're talking about fiscal year 2027. And just as a preparation here, in the last year we made about 600 interceptor missiles, PAC-3 interceptor missiles, and that's up from about 500 4.5 years ago when the Russian war started. We've been trying to expand it. So we've gone from about 500 to about 600, and now watch what they're shooting for next fiscal year.
New budget requests from the armed forces call for nearly 14,000 new missiles and more than 850 THAAD interceptors in 2027 alone. A major increase as the U.S. moves to rebuild depleted stockpiles and boost military readiness.
We've got to actually appropriate that money for the right things, the things we're going to need to fight the wars that we're in right now. So yes, I think the president has rightly requested $1.5 trillion for this year's defense budget. We've got the NDAA in hand. Now let's start getting that money appropriated so we can start this buildup.
What is she even talking about? 14,000 PAC-3 missiles when we can only make about 600 now. He said in fiscal 27 alone, maybe he was wrong. Maybe that's what they're going to allocate and it's going to be over a number of years. I mean, it's going to be a lot of number of years. But is she right that is the thing that we need to focus on is more of the same PAC-3 interceptor missiles that didn't protect our bases in the Middle East?
No, I mean, again, this is one of the reasons why the United States is not going to regain its status as a global military power anytime soon, because we're going to bankrupt ourselves even further buying weapons that don't work. I think what she's talking about is the funding of Patriots. There's just no way in God's green earth that you're going to go from 600 to 14,000. Okay. Look, everybody knows this. You look at motor casting alone. People understand that it takes 2 to 3 years to cure a Patriot motor. So even if we could cast all those motors today, we can't. We don't have the casting facilities. Those Patriots wouldn't be ready for use 2 to 3 years down the road. Critical things, the seeker modules and things of that nature have critical technologies that are linked to subcontractors. There's a finite number of them. And, how do you get subcontractors up and running, producing these critical components to feed this chain? It's impossible. The paperwork alone, even if they were all ready to rock, the paperwork alone, certifications and things of that nature take time. Now, they can waive some of these things, but that's always a danger when you do that because the quality control comes in. But we simply can't produce. We can't increase the volume like they're talking about in a short period of time. This is a long-term procurement package. But they haven't even allocated the money yet. I mean, remember, no contractor begins to do anything, Colonel, you know this, unless there's money behind what they're doing. Contractors don't work for the good of the country. Contractors work for the good of the shareholder. And the shareholder and the board isn't going to let them say, hey, go ahead and invest that multi-billion-dollar, factory expansion, even though you don't have a signed long-term contract. Even though you haven't sourced out where your supply chain's coming from. No, go ahead and ruin us all. Because that's what we live for as shareholders. We live to be ruined financially by your mismanagement. No, that's just not how it works. But the thing is you hit on is these missiles don't work. The PAC-3 is decent, but the PAC-3 can't shoot down a high-end Iskander. Doesn't have the intercept, rate of intercept. It can't maneuver. The Russians now have missiles, and the Iranians now have missiles that they fire and they can move. So the second the algorithm kicks in, hey, we got it. No, we don't have it. No, we don't. We never had it. It's hitting the target. Boom. The advances in missile technology are such that neither the THAAD nor the Patriot can intercept the high-end threat coming out of Russia, North Korea, and Iran. So we're going to spend all this money building a weapon we know doesn't work. And by the time they roll in, we'll get this artificial sense of accomplishment. And I need to remind everybody that none of our weapons work. The SM-3 doesn't work. The SM-6 doesn't work. The THAAD doesn't work. The Patriot 3 doesn't work. None of these work. And now we can get to the long-range standoff systems. they don't work either.
And by the way, I wonder if you can comment on this. One of the things that President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have been talking recently is they said, listen, I know that there's lots of claims that the JASSM and the Tomahawk cruise missiles the inventories are running low. That's true. We're working on that. But hey, we've got so many other weapons. There's no problem. We've got like tens of thousands of JDAMs and small diameter bombs, et cetera. Those things can launch in. But I remember not long ago, maybe a year or two ago, was reporting out that the reason why you don't see JDAMs used in Ukraine anymore is because the Russians pretty quickly figured out how to divert the guidance systems of the JDAMs so that they were never hitting the target. And I'm told, anyway, that technology, that intelligence EW capabilities has been shared by the Russians to the Iranians. And so if you now go to a lot of JDAMs, those may not hit the targets. What do you know about that?
You're 100% correct. It began with HIMARS. We provided the HIMARS system, and in the first couple times it was used in June, July of 2022, we were hitting command posts, ammunition, and everybody like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. The Russians they're going to lose the war now. Well, the Russians did a couple things. They changed their approach. They said, well, there's a weapon that can hit ammunition dump, so we're going to not put a big ammo dump there. We're going to split it up. We're going to be more clever how we do it, command and control, not a singular command post, split it up, have better communication capabilities, and they took the HIMARS, they reverse engineered the components, and they went, we got this. And now they started firing HIMARS, and it misses its target. It's a GPS linked with inertial. So the GPS has to say, you're here, and the target's here. And then as you fire, the inertial is leading you in there, but it keeps getting updates, GPS updates. Boom, up, make sure you're there, boom, up, boom, boom. And the Russians basically scrambled the GPS, and HIMARS started to miss. And then everything missed. We brought in JDAMs, dropped the JDAMs. They were never effective. They never did what we wanted to do because they missed. The Russians did this miss, they missed by a long way. The Russians have been jamming the hell out of all of our satellite-guided stuff, the GMLRS, the small diameters thing. None of it works. None of it. So this is why Starlink has become such an important thing. When I was in Russia in June, I met with 3 different people who were tasked by defeating Starlink. And they all told me, we got it. I said, really? You saw this thing? They said, yeah, we got 3 different efforts we can do. We got one thing, we got the second thing, and the third thing is called a shredder. And basically, they go up there and because Starlink is you got a whole string of satellites, and they just go up there and they shred the whole thing, and it's all gone. But that's the end of space. All that debris up there, and they're like, we really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Make us do it, we'll do it. But the other one is just the guy showed it to me. Probably shouldn't talk about it too much, but they can just shut down Starlink terminal. I mean, they can pick a satellite, shut it down, and you're seeing that now all throughout Ukraine. Starlink's going dark, and we use Starlink. We use Starlink as well. Lucas, which is the stupid American version of the Iranian drone, is a Starlink-guided thing. It doesn't work because the Ukrainians can shut down Starlink and jam Starlink. None of our weapons work.
And that's just it. Babylon has lost. None of the weapons work. And yet, still they haven't even begun to recover the bodies of those that are still trapped. But guess who's coming to their aid? Yep. Israeli interest. Colombia accused of politicizing earthquake rescue after accepting Israeli team and rejecting others. Bogota has its choice of teams based on international rescue standards, but the decision was sharpened scrutiny of the country's turned towards Israel. So there you go. Israeli interest. Israel only. Yep, Israeli state controls both Colombia and Venezuela, so yours truly, this was the plan. Colombia's government has been accused of politicizing search and rescue efforts in the aftermath of a catastrophic earthquake. After accepting the Israeli delegation while restricting the entry of foreign other teams. So nobody else is allowed to rescue them, only Israeli state can. At least 265 people have been killed, injured 3,494, and 496 missing. This is a catastrophe indeed. But looks like yours truly, a direct energy weapon caused it. You know, but you can't talk about that. Oh no, that's conspiracy. Yet, it seems that the Israeli state is the only one involved in Venezuela and Colombia affairs, with the United States doing the dirty work for them. Iranian official denies there have been talks between U.S. and Iran on extending the MOU ceasefire. Official was responding to a report from Turkey's annual agency, which cited Pakistani government sources who claimed that the U.S. and Iran agreed to extend the ceasefire for another 60 days before its expiration on the 17th of August. There was no talk of an extension because the United States violated the interim agreement 48 hours after it was reached and then withdrew from it a few days later. Yeah, Trump said that they were scum. Iran's message is clear: the Strait of Hormuz will not open until the U.S. ends the war and blockade, releases Iran's foreign assets, and agrees to a region-wide ceasefire, including Lebanon and Gaza. Until all conditions are met, the strait will remain closed indefinitely. So there you go. You know, just like the video said. And, you know, as Trump boasts that most of their capabilities are gone, Iran challenges Trump. More than 75% of missile and drone capabilities are still ready for use. You know, should the U.S. want to attack again, they're ready. More than 75% of Iran's missile and drone capabilities remain intact and ready for use despite Israeli and U.S. attacks, Iranian officials said on Wednesday, contradicting U.S. President Trump's assessment of the damage to Iran's military capabilities. His comments contrast sharply with an assessment given by Trump last month when he had only about 21 to 22% of its previous stockpile remaining. So you can see how full of shit, Trump shit, that is. And of course, right, Trump claims that he owns it. Tehran says Hormuz is ours after Trump claims ownership of Strait. President went on social media and said the waterway is under full U.S. control. And you already heard Scott Ritter talk about how much of a joke that is. And this is coming from Agashi. The U.S. is long miscalculated due to intelligence failures. Case in point, the war on Iran, now an even bigger miscalculation on the Strait. Worse than fake news, it's fake intelligence. Be careful. U.S. embassies across West Asia are permanently reassigning personnel. It's not just American military bases in the West Asia, which have been greatly reduced in terms of personnel, in some cases completely abandoned altogether due to the war. But the U.S. embassies in the region have also suffered forced downgrades of staff. Iran's retaliation against U.S. locations and assets across the region was much bigger and more effective than U.S. planners apparently expected. This could have lasting impact on how U.S. military and diplomatic deployments and operations in the region. The only one left really is Saudi Arabia. Everything else is completely wiped out. Tehran's Houthis attack Saudi's Aramco again. Crude spikes as Iran's military command to be more assertive. Saudi Aramco attacked again. Hormuz stalemate and standoff. Iran digs in. Hardline. I mean, just no end in sight as to how much Trump has lost while he portrays that he won the war. Turkey backs Saudi-led maritime defense coalition Red Sea. This move would help deepen the trilateral defense pact between Turkey and Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan. Turkey confirmed on Thursday for the first time that it had joined efforts to establish a multinational maritime defense coalition aimed at ensuring the freedom of navigation in the Red Sea. That's because they have interests there. Israeli state deliberately setting southern Lebanon ablaze. Drones and munitions have repeatedly sparked blazes in forests, olive groves, and farmlands since the June ceasefire, firefighters have told The Guardian. Israeli state has been intentionally igniting wildfires in forests. Yeah, using fire as a weapon. Is that not what's going on over here since, this merger? Yeah, exactly. We know who's behind everything, right? Pentagon admits to committing major civilian massacres in Yemen last year. The Pentagon admitted in its annual report on civilian casualties to Congress that it committed 2 large-scale massacres of civilians in Yemen during its bombing campaign against the Houthis, also known as Ansarallah, last year, which War Secretary Hegseth dubbed Operation Rough Rider. So they acknowledged that they deliberately targeted civilians, but it was fun because that's what this administration does. They target civilians just for fun, like their leader Donald Trump. So you know this devil's coming down having great wrath, knowing that he has but a short time. They're finished. You already know who wins in the end, and that's going to usher in the new kingdom, you know, on earth as it is in heaven. So like everything else, though, you know, Esau's at its end, and there's nothing further that you know, you're just waiting for them to go in. You know, obviously, you know, they're probably going to go in the winter. The draft begins in a couple weeks, so they got to get all the troops positioned first. A lot of people are going to disappear and go over to Saudi Arabia, but that doesn't mean that the attacks are going to start until winter. But they got to get everything ready, so get ready, man, because a lot of people are going to be going to fight this war. So hopefully this has been edifying for them to say Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai. Got one more scripture here before I close this out. Why not just end it here in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4 in the NLT? Look at the proud. They trust in themselves. Yeah, exactly. But like everything else, though, we know that, you know, they can try and pretend that they're winning, but really, truly, though, they've lost. And their lives are crooked, but the righteous will live by their faithfulness to Yahweh. Wealth is treacherous, and the arrogant are never at rest. The arrogant is another term for the Edomites. They open their mouths as wide as the grave, and like death, they are never satisfied. In their greed, they have gathered up many nations and swallowed many people. You know, just keep on taking. But soon their captives will taunt them, and Iran has been big time taunting them. They will mock them, saying, "What sorrow awaits you, thieves? Now you will get what you deserve. You've become rich by extortion. But how much longer can this go on?" So like everything else, though, they're looking to an end of the war. Verse 8, because you have plundered many nations, now all the survivors will plunder you. You committed murder throughout the countryside and filled the towns with violence. What sorrow awaits you who build big houses with money gained dishonestly? And if you've seen a lot of the videos that came out during the war, you would have seen them mocking Trump with the Legos, and yet going into the history of Babylon the Great, showing them to be the murderers that they always have. You believe your wealth will buy you security, putting your family's nest beyond the reach of danger. But by the murders you committed, you have shamed your name and forfeited your lives. And pretty much, though, you know, you've been humiliated all across the world, because everybody sees that Esau has been defeated in Iran and around the world. They're now looking and saying, is this he? You know, that troubled many nations that would not let his prisoners go. You know, as in dealing with Isaiah chapter 14. You know, they narrowly looked down upon him. So hopefully this has all been edifying for those who say Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Wal Abal Babal. Brakatham, Jehovah Elect, Shalom.